Okay, welcome back to the Tip Top Auto Shop. Today we're going to basically do a front brake pad installation on the 2006 3.5 liter Honda Odyssey. As you remember from our services, this is the brakes. There were about 30 seconds of brake pad left, which the customer could have went probably about 1,000 miles or so, but they wanted to go ahead and replace the brake pads. So today we have some instructions printed out by ALLDATA on how to do the brake job. So the first part of this is to raise the vehicle, which we've already went ahead and did for you. We put safety stands underneath. We got our cheap Harbor Freight, but they're both of equal size, so we're okay. Safety stands in there, and I'm going to kind of go through step-by-step instructions. So we're on the second page of our instruction now. Basically, we have our rotor, okay, which is attached to the spindle, which is held on by this big nut here, which is held on to a CV axle, which is back here, and that CV axle is connected to the transmission, which actually spins this. Which basically we have our caliper, which clamps on this. Now, one of the things that we wanted to look at is the rotor itself, to make sure there's no grooves and any kind of wear on that. Now, this rotor looks really good. There's no grooves on there. It's pretty flat. I did drive the vehicle and there was no pulsation in the wheels, and so basically at this point it's just the lining is worn, and we're going to go ahead and change out the lining. So the first thing is we got a 14 millimeter wrench. We kind of want to break this loose, so we're going to have to kind of break it loose a little bit. And sometimes if you go back and forth, you can get it loose. Now that's pretty loose. There's this is a floating caliper, so this slides back and forth, and this bolt is actually threaded into the caliper guide, and so you want to be very careful. There is torque specs on this. When you remove this, you want to look at the threads, make sure there's no damage on it. It looks pretty good. This is a breakaway bolt, so what happens is if you do over torque it, this bolt tends to break off in this guide pin, and you usually end up having to replace the guide pin and the bolt. So we're going to go ahead and take off the bottom one, which is down here. Going to do the same thing, kind of push up, push down. There we go. Normally there's only about 23 or 24 foot-pounds of torque on these guide bolts. They don't really do a lot of holding on there. There's a lot of physics into what actually holds this caliper in there, but this does keep it in here. So we want to go ahead and look at our bolt. Everything looks good. I do see a little bit of looks like a little bit of Earl there on there. Other than that, it looks pretty good. I don't see anything wrong with that. So I'm gonna put that in there. Now you just kind of grab the caliper, and we're just going to kind of slide that off, and basically we're going to set that up here like so. Now I'm going to turn these are the pistons. Now what happens is fluid goes behind these pistons through our brake lines and through our reservoir, which I showed you guys how to check earlier, and it just kind of pushes these pistons up against the lining. Now here's our pads over here. This is our pads right here, which you can see we got a little bit of lining here on there. You can see the pads are cracked, and so it's probably a good thing that we went ahead and we're changing these. These are bonded, so they're kind of glued to this metal surface, so you can see the clear distinction between the two. This is actually the lining, and this is actually the metal. And like I said, these could have gone a little while longer, but you know, we saw that it was down, and since we're going to do the CV axle on the other side, we might as well go ahead and do the brakes while we're here. So we went ahead. It's always good to be honest with your customers and let them know that, you know, they actually had lining left on here, but under further investigation, you can see the cracking in this pad. So this piece could actually come off of the lining. So it's kind of good that we're actually going through this and, you know, doing a brake job here. So couple of things. There should be some anti-rattle clips, which I don't see the anti-rattle clips on this particular job that go in these little holes right here. So those may have popped off or whatever, but there's these little springs that go in here, and sometimes they come with a new kit or so. But I'm gonna go and pop these off. It just right here. These are where the brake pads slide back and forth. They are replaceable. They just kind of clip in. You can see how they just kind of fit in. Just kind of pop in there. So you just want to be mindful. We can clean those back up and reuse them, but basically it should come with some new ones. So we're going to go ahead and set this one down. This is kind of lay things out. So this is the top, this is the bottom. And you know, make sure when you take things out, you kind of keep track of where the stuff is. Now, what I have here is I have a brake pad compressor. This is not exactly the tool that this one is. Actually, I have one back in the shop that sits on both sides, and it actually fits in there. So we're going to have to work really slow with this. These ceramic pistons you want to be really careful with, and so what we're going to do is we're just going to take one of the old pads and we're just going to kind of stick it in here, and then we're going to compress the piston inside the caliper housing. So that way, when we go to put the new pads on, we don't have to mess with it. So I'm just going to go a little at a time. Obviously, we're gonna, if you can see that we're doing one side versus the other, and so we're going to stop on this side, and you're just going to alternate from one side to the other. You don't want to use a screwdriver and pry on these. They're ceramic based pistons. That's why we're just going to use the metal, and it goes in nice and easy. There's no damage that'll occur to the pistons. So we just want to screw that in. Again, move back and forth. We don't really care about the old pad, so that's why we're using the old pad. We're using it as a tool to reinstall the new one. So again, just taking our time, squeezing the pistons back in their housing. So we just go back in there, and there we go. There we go. So we don't want to screw it too far, but we'll get it as close as possible. There we go. So it's sealed in. The pistons are both in, nice and even. So nice and neat. One of the things you want to look at is you want to look at your seal. Make sure your piston seals aren't leaking. There's no moisture. We're just going to go ahead and clean that with a rag. Wipe it down really good. I don't see any evidence of any leakage. We're going to wipe all this extra debris out of the way, though, and start prepping this for the new pad. So we're going to get a wire brush and then kind of clean a little bit in here. I got a small wire brush. And we're going to clean everything up and then prep it for putting the new pads on. We're going to do one side at a time, cleaning everything else. If you do the job right, pretty much what you'll end up doing is spending most of your time cleaning everything and prepping everything so that it goes in real nice and easy. So we're going to go ahead and spend a little time cleaning everything up, and then we'll come back to the installation portion of it. So right now we're cleaning, like a little bristle brush. We're gonna use a little brake cleaner on both sides, and just gonna clean that up a little good. You don't want to breathe the brake dust that's in here. We're gonna clean it up. It doesn't take a lot of this stuff, just a little bit. Yeah, you can use soap and water actually. Yeah, save you some money if you didn't have some brake clean, but I like using the brake clean. One of the things you want to do too is when you're doing this is grab your guide pins, move them back and forth, make sure they're not stuck. Like this top one here. Notice this top one doesn't move back and forth like this bottom one. So chances are we got to pop this off. There's a little rubber clip, and then we got to pull this out, and then just kind of gonna pop this off. And there we go. We're gonna clean this a little bit, and we got a little anti-seize in here. So we're gonna run this. This should slide back and forth nice and easy. So we're gonna go ahead and squirt a little juice in here. There we go. I'm gonna clean it out as much as possible. I think these, yeah, we could take this rubber piece out and get like a little, get the end of our little toothbrush and kind of run that in there and clean it out really good. Make sure that it slides really good back and forth. You see, that's already just a little bit better, but not as good as this bottom one here. I'm gonna go ahead and try to clean that out a little bit more. I'm gonna try to see, you got a little bit of goo in there. Try to clean that. A lot of people miss this step when they're going and doing brakes, but actually this is you want to make sure that you clean that really good. Maybe you get like a screwdriver, like a Phillips screwdriver. And we're going to stick that on there. Let me go get a Phillips screwdriver and try to clean that out a little bit better. And we're going to go inside here and clean this out really good. There we go. Cleaning that really good. Try to clean out that as much as we can. Using a little torque screwdriver, and it doesn't have. Look, we just put that in here. It's like cleaning a gun barrel. Just kind of stuff that in there. There we go. Yeah, looks pretty good. All right, now we're gonna go ahead and get our little rubber bushing again and kind of clean that out a little bit. And I like to use, some people like to use lithium grease. I like to use what they call a little anti-seize. Kind of helps, so we're gonna go ahead and get a little bit of that. And before we put the rubber boot on and make a mess of everything, we're just gonna kind of stick that inside here and then kind of lube it up really good. There we go. Put this back in here. This stuff goes a long way, so we're gonna go ahead and put that back on, and just take our pin, and we're gonna put that back in here, and we want to make sure that there we go. And we just move this pin back and forth, and we're gonna take and wipe off the excess now. Okay. I'm gonna wipe off the excess. And then we should put this pin back in. It should, oh yeah, see how it's sliding really nice back and forth. So you want to make sure that you're good to go. All right, so everything looks good. like I said, the bottom pin moves really nice. It feels really like it's really in good shape. So we're gonna go ahead and take this here and we're gonna stick it back inside. Just kind of make sure it's sealed inside there. There we go. And then we got our bolt. We're gonna go ahead and put our bolt back in there and everything. And then there's gonna just kind of slide that back over. Now we're good to go. Now this is gonna slide back and forth really nice. Here we go. And we could, and since we're here, we might as well just pull it off and maybe wipe it down, and we'll put some lube on it. Wipe this off really good since we're already here. Might as well do the job right, and we might as well clean it out. Like again, what I was telling you guys in the beginning is that if you clean everything up and do this job, half the time is just going to be cleaning everything and making sure everything's lubricated really well. And if you do this, this will take care of most of your brake issues if you ever have any brake issues. Just making sure your brakes, your caliper guide pins slide back and forth nice and easy, really makes a difference. We're gonna take our pin again, just slide that in there. There we go. Again, seals it pretty good. You don't want to put any anti-seize on the bolt on the threads going in, because that's that's what holds the bolt in. Like I said, the one bolt that kind of holds the caliper in place fits into this guide pin like so. So this is why it's called a floating caliper, because this slides back and forth inside the bracket. So that's why it's a floating caliper. So we're gonna go ahead and put our pin back in. We're gonna pop this little seal back in here. That's good. I'm gonna wipe down this extra stuff. We don't want to leave all that laying around. Nice and clean. Pop our little pin in there. Let me slide that back on. There we go. Now, whatever extra grease or lubrication will actually slide into the real rubber boot and keep everything lubed. Rubber boots to keep the dirt from flying in there. But yeah, so we're all set. Everything's kind of cleaned up a little bit. The only thing is we're gonna go get our new metal clips and pop those on. We went to the kit that we bought from eBay. They are OEM brake pads, but unfortunately they didn't ship them with these new what they call anti-rattle springs. So we're gonna clean them up, and this is basically part of the deal. When you get aftermarket stuff, is sometimes this is it's not aftermarket, it's OEM parts, but we bought it from an aftermarket company instead of going right to the dealership. Maybe saved $5, but now we got to do $5 worth of extra labor, which is cleaning up these components. And that's basically, this is brake dust. This you can see as I wipe it off, I use the brake clean. Again, it only takes a couple seconds. We're gonna reuse them. These are kind of like anti-rattle clips. We're gonna make sure that these are clean and good to go. And yeah, it looks really good. They're not broken, so we can reuse them. So just something to know. If they do send you new ones, go ahead and put the new ones on. And everything looks good now. You want to make sure that there's a little, you can see this little part right here on the, this is where this actually fits into. So you want to slide this in, and then you want to lock it into place, and then just kind of make sure it clips into place like so. Okay. Yeah, everything's good. So now we're ready for our pad installation. Now, a couple of things about the pad is this basically is the wear sensor. So you can see that right here. So what happens is when this actually wears down onto this right here, it starts making a high pitch squeak sound, which basically lets you know that, hey, you're almost out of brakes. And so it makes like a metal on metal sound. So it just kind of rubs on this. And so if you start hearing a metal on metal sound, like a screeching sound, then you know that this is hitting, and that's before you get to metal on metal, which is actually this part hitting the rotor, which in that case the rotor would be worn out beyond specs. Okay, so so this couple of things here, you can see this is a pad. This pad goes on the piston side, so you want to make sure that when you put this in, that this sensor is down at the bottom. That's kind of how we took it out. So we know that because of the wear marks, we call witness marks of the pistons on that side. So we know that this fits like this, and you can see it's kind of shaped. So we know where that goes. So before we move on, I'm going to get a little bit of this anti-seize or lubrication, and I'm going to take these pins back off. It's just easier to do it with it off. And what I'm going to do is just go in and lubricate that very lightly on both sides, and just that's where the you want to put that on there. You don't want to put a lot because you don't want excess to get onto your rotor and then get onto your brake pads, and basically what happens is that'll kind of hamper your braking. So what happens is this actually slides on this, and it kind of keeps it locked into place. So you kind of see how it slides back and forth nice and slippery on here. So that's kind of why we lubricate that. So now we got a little bit of that. We don't have a lot, we just have a little. So we're just going to go ahead and snap this back into place, back in like so. We're just going to clip that in, and then we're going to pop this back in. It's not going in right. So make sure that we pop that in. There we go. There we go. Nice. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and pop this one off. I'm going to go ahead and put a little lubrication down here. Just a little bit. I guess a little bit goes a long ways on this stuff. You don't want to get too carried away. And again, notice how we use the rubber gloves. It makes everything really nice. You don't have to go wash your hands and everything. So every 5 seconds, I don't like the way this is sitting, so I'm going to kind of reposition it again and see if I can get a better fit. There we go. I think it fits a little better now. Here we go. Okay, so now this is the part. I'm going to take off my gloves and get rid of all the dirt and debris and all that lubrication stuff. And I'm going to toss those over there. I'm going to grab my new pads, and I'm going to go start assembling these. So we know that this brake pad goes at the bottom. So I'm going to get my little clip. Now this is nice from the factory. They send you new clips, and they just kind of clip on there, and that's kind of so the pistons have a nice place to line up with. And then we're gonna go ahead and set this one. And again, we know that goes there, and then we're gonna grab the other pad, which is right here. It doesn't have the wear. We know that pad is going to go on the outside, so we're going to go ahead and put I'm going to put this on the outside, I believe, like so, and that kind of locks into place. Everything locks into place. It's got a nice little, should clip in there. There's little wear pads right here, so it keeps it from popping off. You can see if it moves, it stops. So you want to make sure that's on there nice and neat. And that allows the caliper to kind of move on this. So again, a lot of engineering goes into this. So I like using. Now the reason why I'm using my hands, because I don't have any oil or debris going on there, and I can kind of move things along. So popped in there. See how the little metal clips kind of pop that in there, really no problem. We're gonna do the same thing for the other side. Kind of just pop it in there and give it a little twist, and then there you go. So that's on, and then nice and straight. We're gonna just give it a little pre-run. We're just gonna spin this. Looks good. There's no rubbing and grinding. We're gonna go ahead and take our caliper. And one thing about these calipers is you want to make sure that the hose isn't twisted. And voila, you just slide that on really nice. Make sure that the pins go in. And here we go. Pretty easy. And take our bolts, and again, you want to make sure that you put them in by hand and get everything lined up a little bit. Just kind of screw it in by hand. Get everything going. And go down at the bottom. Screw it in by hand. And then we're going to go ahead and get our 14mm wrench, and we're just going to kind of snug things up for now. And that's really all there is. A couple of precautions that you want to take place is that when you do the one side, is that you want to reapply the brakes before you go to the other side, because when we push the pistons back, we pushed all the fluid back into the master cylinder. So right now the master cylinder is a little overfull. So we're going to go back in, we're going to hit the brakes, and we're going to test it, and then I'm going to watch the pistons and make sure everything lines back up, and we're going to see, we're going to check for movement over here. I'm going to make sure everything's good. So I'm going to have to pump them a couple of times. So you see, now you can see the movement here. Okay, you see it moving very little. That's all you get, and so that's good. So everything's moving pretty good. It looks good. Everything's good. Again, just kind of grab and release. Everything looks good. So we're done. Other than torquing down, we have to get the torque specs for this, and we'll do that once we finish the other side.